Hey ladies and gentlemen, how y'all doing? I'm Kurt Wiegel, this is Game Geeks, and today we're reviewing something fresh off the press. Leagues of Cthulhu by Triple Ace Games. Now this is for their Leagues of Adventure line, which is powered by the Ubiquity engine. What this is, and in broad overview, is a way to introduce Lovecraftian themes, monsters, critters, books, etc. into specifically your Leagues of Adventure game, but even less specifically, we're kind of talking about any of the Ubiquity games here. Now, as a quick reminder, the Ubiquity engine is basically a DO2, is what I like to call it, where you roll a pool of dice based on attribute plus skill plus modifiers. Even numbers are successes, odd numbers are failures, and that's how you total up what you have. It's very slick, it's very easy, it's very straightforward. Now, what can you do with Cthulhu for this? Well, my initial thought was, and it's written for putting into Leagues of Adventure, which is the globe-trotting adventure game. Obviously, this would darken up your game a little bit. But they already have Leagues of Gothic Horror, just sort of takes a different point of view with horror and the overall idea of being scary and monsters, etc., as opposed to just running around doing pulp-era stuff. You can also easily insert this into a Hollow Earth expedition game, because you're exploring the mysteries of the world and you get into the Hollow Earth and, oh look, somebody got there before you and his name was Cthulhu. And so you can find all the basic ideas that you would find in the mythos in the Hollow Earth and on the surface as well. Even going to Mars if you so choose. Finally, the next one I think this could fit into is Regime Diabolique, which is the Musketeers role-playing game. Now, my initial thought when I saw that was, that's two great tastes that may not taste great together. But the more I ruminated on it, I thought that could really work, especially if you have something like Cardinal Richelieu being the evil cultist and everything he's doing, and you're working to save King Louis from the machinations of the insane priest. But a player of mine, hey David, once flipped that around and said, what if the king is the cultist and Richelieu is the one trying to save everything? Which I think puts a brand new spin on it, and I thought, ooh, how neat and exciting. But then on the other side of that, well, you know, it turns out Chaosium is publishing an adventure very much like that later this year or early next. So it just goes to show you there are no new ideas, or at least none that I have. So why Cthulhu in this? Well, it's a very popular property, and let's face it, it has a real near and dear spot to my heart on it. So what we have here is, as I mentioned, the Cthulhu mythos as presented for the Ubiquity engine. This is really the Cthulhu mythos as idealized and presented by the author Wiggy. And to be very honest with you, if there's ever been an author whose take I would like to see on the Cthulhu mythos, Wiggy was toward the top of that list. His sensibilities, his writing style, his ideas fit nicely into this, and the book certainly does not disappoint. Now, right up front, what it gives you is a breakdown of the Cthulhu mythos, what is in, what is out, from the point of view of the author. One of the things I like about this is he's not taking a snobbish, Lovecraft-only purist approach. And yes, there are Lovecraft purists out there. I sort of point and giggle because I think since Lovecraft was so open to other people writing in his world, he was kind of one of the original open source. So because of all that, I find Lovecraft purists to be amusing because Lovecraft is about as pure as a crib house whore, to be honest about it. So he specifically says what he is using in this game is for and specifically what Lovecraft wrote. Not for any snobbish, idealistic academic reasons, but pretty much because there's so much out there. He went to the original source material. That's what he likes, and that's what he's excluding is anything that sort of came from Derleth, with tying it into the elemental forces, etc. How does this work as a game? Well, one of the big changes it brings up front to you is this idea of an elder lore skill, which represents how much you understand of the Cthulhu mythos and how much you understand of the true nature and underpinnings of the universe. This is certainly not an occult skill. An occult skill might just barely be, oh look, there's something behind the curtain. Whereas with the elder lore skill and the knowledge of the mythos itself, you grab the curtain, look on the other side and go blah in the process. One of the approaches that I really like about this is you gain Eldritch experience points as you go through certain experiences. Exposure to the monsters, reading the books, Now, the books are really where it's going to smack you in the face the hardest, because each of the book has a mythos skill. That's how many Eldritch experience points you get. So the more frightening of the books, say Alazif has a mythos rating of 5, Unser Sprachenkulten has one of 4, whereas a King in Yellow is just a measly 1. Those experience points you absolutely have to earn and instantly convert into the Elder Lore skill as soon as you possibly can. So you can't have the players holding on to the tables going, I don't wanna. You got to do it. There's no choice in the matter, which represents the downward spiral of insanity that you have in the Mythos Investigations games. Now, the other part of this is each level of the skill reduces your character's sanity by 1. Sanity is a derived attribute. It is willpower plus charisma. The average character is running around with about a 4, so the more sanity-based and more mental characters would probably have one cruising in between 6 and 8. So even gaining any points in those that would reduce the attribute really hits home hard first. There are also talents that you get with this. There are only a few new ones, the bulk of which I really appreciate are the bloodline talents. Because one of the things in Lovecraft's writings were you had families, the characters were the descendants of families that had skeletons in their closet. The Whatleys, the Marshes. All of these bloodlines had stuff that went wrong with them. Like the Whatleys were intimately connected to the adventures around Dunwich. The Marshes, God help you, from Innsmouth. The Delapours. All of these have a mechanical benefit for you being part of that family, but there's also a mythos tie-in that you may discover you have. For example, if you're a Marsh, all of a sudden, one of the benefits you have is you really know how to swim. Why? That's the subject of the adventures to come. For those of you that are in the know about the mythos, you're probably going, ugh, why on earth would anyone pick to be a member of the Marsh family when you know what's coming down the road? Answer, because it's cool. And let's face it, some of us play Cthulhu to play doomed characters anyway. The other new talent that's in there is Escape Artist, which, okay, useful. So it also gives you the new leagues you can be a part of, which are the good guy leagues. The bad guy leagues are included in the cults. The good guy leagues, including the Aeon Club, which is the study it to fight it, as opposed to the Hounds of Nodens, which are kill it with fire, kill it now. There's a small collection of spells. Well, there's a small collection of smells when you deal with Cthulhu, too. There's a small collection of spells. It's vastly trimmed down from what you might have seen in other books, because one of the ideas that this book presents is keep it lean. Keep the mythos lean. I've seen in a couple other sources as well, particularly in the Trail of Cthulhu role-playing game, in which the author in Trail of Cthulhu actually says, why do you need another god of misstruck keys when the ones that are already there will do? I present to you Nyarlathotep with the 999 masks, or another name for Cthulhu. Why introduce a brand new god when you have one there that will already work? After those, there's a brief but interesting world tour. It's a little shorter than I would have expected, but for a 90-some-odd page book, that's what you're going to get. I have a feeling that there is a much bigger, broader, this is the world from the point of view of Cthulhu book coming out for Leagues of Adventure, or Leagues of Cthulhu in the near future. The setting part of it only goes from pages 31 to 56, which is not many pages to fit in for the whole world. There are adventure seeds in each one of those and a couple of interesting spots. One of the things the interesting spots have that I thought were interesting were this idea of it's an eerie atmosphere, which is a negative modifier to your fear checks. So if it's a creepy old house, or the sewers under the catacombs under Paris where the ghouls may or may not be living, it's probably a -1 or -2. But if you're on Yuggoth or frickin' Riviere, or however you say it, you're at a -5. Good luck. You'll be eating pudding soon. The critters starts with the great old ones and the more powerful ones, and then it sort of descends into the ones that you can actually deal with. People like Cthulhu, Shub-Niggurath, etc. do not have stats, because if you're going toe-to-toe with them, you've done something wrong, in my opinion. But one of the things I love about the setting and the specific critters in question is Kinyan gets some love, which is this weird eldritch lit city somewhere under the Great Plains states it's sort of your archetypical city of like the old civilizations that can mind control you and do things. It's there. It was in a story that was by, oh goodness, I forget the author's name, but supposedly with H.P. Lovecraft, which according to most people, it was H.P. Lovecraft wrote it and somebody else slapped their name on it. But he was nice like that. There are some cults and then the people you might run into in the time. One of the things I like about this is some of the names of the luminaries of the era you may or may not run into are actual Lovecraft, people who have written in the Lovecraft's mythos, which I thought was a particularly interesting twist there and a bit of an homage for them. Finally, the last chapter is dealing with the mythos, has a section I really like about it, which is why include a monster when a human can be the greatest monster of them all in the mythos, which also kind of tracks in with some of Lovecraft's writings. Not everything he wrote about was about tentacular, squishy things that skulk in the night and in the shadows. They were about cannibals, cultists, people who do horrible things. For example, in the actual story, The Call of Cthulhu, you only get a vague glimpse of Big C once. The rest of it were the cultists in Louisiana doing terrible, terrible things. I love Cthulhu. I love the mythos. That's a weird thing to say. I deeply appreciate the Cthulhu mythos for what it is. And again, I point at the way I've permanently blemished my skin to point for my appreciation of the subject material. This is a really great take on it. It's streamed down, it's simple, it's lean, it's a way to stick it into Ubiquity games anywhere you want to, or you can even, playing in a different system, if you chose, take some of these ideas and throw them in there. I particularly like the idea of the Elder lore skill and the Eldritch experience points that you have no choice in the matter. You're going to go if you look at this for too long. But again, what is Cthulhu adventuring if you're not holding back the night one last day? For Game Geeks, I'm Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.